I never thought a simple buzz from my phone could break me so completely. I was standing in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner, when her name flashed on my screen, not hers, but someone else's. "Can't wait to see you tonight, red heart # it read. I froze, knife in midair, stomach sinking into some cold, unfamiliar pit. My first thought was denial. I shook my head and laughed at myself. Maybe it was a joke, maybe a misdial. But the unease didn't go away. My wife, Clara, had called it just a college friend when I asked about him before. She laughed when I teased her about old friends texting. "He's harmless, you worry too much," she'd said. And maybe I did worry too much, but standing there, reading that message, I realized that worry might have been my only lifeline to truth. The days after that became a kind of quiet torment. Clara was herself in some ways. Warm, affectionate, smiling. But there were fissures I couldn't ignore. She left her phone on the counter, screen down, whenever I entered the room. She became vague about her late nights at the office, her catching up with friends, and the smell, a strange, unfamiliar perfume lingering on her sleeve, made my stomach twist. I found myself double-checking her stories, questioning little inconsistencies. Why her car had an extra mud streak one morning, why her laugh sometimes felt hollow, why she suddenly avoided talking about her past with that college friend. I tried to ignore it. I tried to convince myself that I was being paranoid. But love has a way of making suspicion feel like betrayal even when you haven't confirmed anything. And yet, the nagging feeling wouldn't let me sleep. One night, I caught her quickly swiping a text away when I walked in from the garage. I didn't say anything. I just stood there, the dim light of the hallway catching the side of her face, and realized I didn't know this person I married as well as I thought. It started small, a forgotten lunch, a skipped call, a sudden tension when I asked about her day. Then I overheard her laugh on a call, not the kind you hear in passing, but the kind that feels like it belongs somewhere you're not invited. The words "can't wait" repeated softly, and my chest ached like it had been cut open slowly, carefully, with a scalpel I couldn't see. I wanted proof. I didn't want to confront her without something solid, because the thought of being wrong and hurting her for nothing was unbearable. So I hired a private detective. I felt ridiculous the moment I typed his number, imagining the incredulous smile on his face when I explained why I needed someone to follow my wife. But I couldn't stop myself. My mind was a battlefield of hope and fear. When the detective's report came in, I didn't know whether to be relieved that I had confirmation or horrified that my intuition had been right. Clara wasn't lying about every detail, but the emotional connection she had formed with this man, calls, texts, secret weekend meetups, was undeniable. The words "just a college friend" felt like a knife twisting in my gut. The photos of them laughing in a coffee shop, leaning too close, her hand brushing against his. It wasn't physical infidelity, at least not yet, but it was an intimacy that had no place in our marriage. I confronted her that night, sitting in the living room with the detective's photos laid out between us like evidence in a court I didn't want to be in. I watched her face shift through a palette of emotions. Shock, guilt, shame, sorrow. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she whispered. Her voice cracked, and I wanted to hate her, scream, run, and never look back. But all I felt was a hollow ache in my chest. Then what was it, Clara? Tell me it was nothing, I said, my voice trembling. I hated that I needed her words to define my reality. It wasn't nothing. I felt lonely, and he listened. I didn't even realize how close we'd gotten until now, she admitted. And there it was, the truth, sharp and raw. It didn't hurt any less than I imagined it would. If anything, the honesty made the wound bleed wider. I remembered our early days, how we'd talk for hours about nothing, how I thought we could face anything together. Now every memory felt like it had a shadow I couldn't escape. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall, remembering every laugh we'd shared, every promise we'd made. I loved her, I still loved her, but love had become a complicated knot of fear, betrayal, and longing. I thought about walking away, but my body refused to move. Part of me still hoped that love could survive this, even as another part whispered that I might never trust her the same way again. Days passed in a muted rhythm. I observed her, watched her expressions, listened to her excuses. She tried to bridge the distance, offered reassurances, apologies, and sometimes tears. She confessed to moments I had no idea existed, moments where she had let someone else's words matter more than mine. I listened, and though part of me wanted to lash out, I stayed silent, letting her speak, letting myself feel every wave of hurt and grief. Eventually, I had to make a decision. Could I forgive her? Could I rebuild a marriage fractured by hidden emotions and whispered confidences? Or was leaving the only way to preserve what little dignity remained? I realized that forgiveness, if it came, wouldn't be instant. Trust couldn't be restored in a single conversation, or even a single year. But neither could love vanish completely. I still saw her face in my mind, the way her hair fell over her shoulder, the curve of her smile. We sat together one evening, quiet, the house filled with the faint hum of the refrigerator and the soft ticking of the wall clock. "I don't know if I can promise things will be the same," she said, finally breaking the silence. "But I want to try, if you'll let me." And in that moment, I felt a flicker of something I hadn't allowed myself to feel for weeks. Cautious hope. Not blind, not naive, but tentative. I nodded, my throat tight, my heart heavy. "I don't know if things will be the same," I replied. "But I want to understand. I need time, and we need honesty. That's the only way forward." She reached for my hand, trembling, and I held it. It wasn't a fix, not by a long shot, but it was something. A beginning of something fragile, real, and painfully human. Later, when I lay in bed alone, staring at the ceiling, I understood the truth about love and trust. Love isn't perfect. It isn't always safe. Sometimes it is messy, heartbreaking, and full of mistakes. And trust, it's not given freely. It's earned, lost, rebuilt, and sometimes surrendered again with trembling hands. I closed my eyes and let the ache settle, letting it remind me that even in betrayal, even in pain, there is clarity. The world had shifted, yes, but I was still here, still feeling, still alive, and maybe, just maybe, still capable of loving. And as sleep finally crept in, I realized that some truths, no matter how devastating, don't destroy you. They simply teach you how fragile, complicated, and profoundly human your heart really is.